So I got the Climax pump out again today. I'm just making a short video. Hopefully this will be a nice clean little short video for you. Working on the Grandad Mac project at the moment, doing a couple of the implements for it. But it turns out epoxy enamel paint, epoxy enamel paint that I'm using to paint the implements is taking a really long time to dry and set now that our temperatures have dropped here. So I just thought I'd grab this thing out of the shed, give it a run up. I haven't had it running for quite some time, and I've made a couple of little changes, done something quite cool. You can probably see I've got the handles on there now, and they've got inside out bicycle tube on there. So what I thought I'd do, just so that the paint doesn't get worn off if we're ever lifting this on and off trailers and moving it around, here inside out bicycle tube, just give it some rubber grip on the handles there. Change that I've made that I'm going to try today to get this thing running and keeping water circulating through it is down here. So on the bottom of the pump there was a drain plug screwed in here for draining the water out of the bottom of it. I've pulled that plug, got a few brass fittings and things together, and a valve on here for opening and closing, so it's going to be multi-purpose. It'll still work as a drain, block everything off there, and a hose fitting on the end. So the theory is that I can fill this whole plenum, fill the whole pump up, and it serves two purposes. Keeps the seal wet in the pump, and I can crack one of the outlets to keep water circulating through it, and it'll help with the heat exchanger as well. Keep some fresh water going through it. So yeah, I'm going to hook this up, see how it goes. And I haven't had this thing started or running for quite some time. I'll just put some fuel in it a little bit. The tank was pretty low. The battery should be fully charged, so we'll plug it all in, get some water running through. I'll probably rinse the pump out. I don't know how much gunk and garbage will come out of the bottom of that once I take that inlet cap off there, and we'll give it a go, see how many cranks it takes. Hopefully she'll fire up, but like I say, it's getting cold here, so we'll fold these handles in out of the road, hook the hose on, turn the tap on upstairs to get some water running down. Got myself a nice long 30-meter garden hose, so I can run all the way from the back garden tap all the way down here into the workshop area. So yeah, I'll chuck it on the tripod, we'll get it all hooked up and give it a go and see what happens. Alrighty, so I've just been and turned the tap on upstairs. You can hear it hissing down here a little bit, the air's coming through, so we're just going to crack this valve. I've got the cap off to flush out the bottom of the pump. We'll see what comes running out. Probably got the wrong shoes on, never mind. So nothing too filthy and dirty coming out of there at the moment. I'll turn that off, we'll put that bottom cap on and then see if we can get it to run up through the top outlets. There it is, that should be filling the pump. There it goes. So when I turn that hose back on and keep that cracked like that, there should be enough, just enough water just to keep it circulating a little bit, keep that pump seal wet down the bottom. And also I'll probably find the water coming out of the outlet will get hot pretty quick with the heat exchanger working up in the top there, keeping the engine cool. So yeah, I'll chuck some gloves on. Last time I tried crank starting this thing without gloves, I ended up with a massive blister in my hand. So got some gloves there, we'll chuck those on and hook the battery up, see if it'll fire. I'd say I'll call that a success. Yeah, that water circulation system's working good. Could feel the water getting warm coming out. The heat exchanger tank up the top there is definitely getting warm, but because there's warm water coming out of the pump outlet, means it is exchanging its heat and doing its job. So yeah, I guess we just call it a that, eh? I don't know, I'll let it cool down, maybe I'll give it 5 minutes and then I'll come back down. Let's just have a look at what the time is now. So right now it's saying it's 10:46, so I'll show you that again. We'll give it a little cool down time, and then I'll come back down and just see how it starts up on a second start. So we'll just unhook our battery for now. Put the phone away. So just unplug the electrical lead, disconnect one terminal from the battery for safety, and I'll just turn the fuel off, and then we'll yeah, I'll let it cool down for a few minutes, maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes, half an hour, and I'll come down and just see what it's like when it restarts, see what it does. So while I'm letting this thing cool down for a bit, just yeah, just going over, checking a few things. I've actually unhooked the hose down here from the bottom, drained everything out just to see if there was any gunk and gunge in there. Water came out completely clean, nothing on the ground, nothing floating around, so that's really cool. Close those up again. I did notice, and I forgot actually when I was doing this up, so the fuel pump is in here, right, and it's triggered by, there's a little cam, little rod inside here that pushes and pulses the fuel pump. The gasket was leaking slightly. I noticed a tiny little pool of oil on the ground. Cleaned it up down here, and a little bit that was laying on this tray, so at some stage I've got to replace that gasket or do something with it to seal it up. It's a cork gasket that's in there. I don't want to just keep over tightening the bolts because that changes the clearance on that cam and the amount that it pushes on the fuel pump. So I've got to replace that gasket with something the same thickness, or put some sealant or do something with that one. And the other thing that I noticed over here was this corrosion. I don't know why I didn't notice this when I pulled it out, but pop this handle down out of the road, you can see the corrosion just on the on that motor plate there. So the water pump must have a slight leak. You can see little bits of rust around the pulley up in here, so I'd say the seal in the end of the water pump is a little bit dodgy. Trying to replace or do anything with that is pretty major. I'd say trying to find one of these water pumps or to pull this thing completely apart to replace the seals is a bit of a nightmare. So, but it's not too bad if it's just done that little bit, and it's not actually leaking and dripping at the moment while it's running. So yeah, there is a wee plug under here. No, I don't know what that is. Maybe that's for perhaps there's supposed to be a grease nipple in there and the grease seals it, I don't know. But yeah, other than that, you know, there was some smoke coming off the exhaust manifold. That's just from that fresh paint. But yeah, no water leaks up around here anywhere. Everything's looking good. I did have the top off the radiator, off the, I don't know what you'd want to call it, radiator, heat exchanger, intercooler, whatever. So the level's still sitting good in there, where I filled it to. A little bit murky on the top, that's just the filth that's been floating around inside the engine. Sometime I'll drain that and put some fresh stuff back in there again, but none of it's coming back out. Like, I did have some cracks in the internal coil. You can see where I've had it cut open around the seam and resealed that, glued that. Used a JB weld because the aluminium was so thin I couldn't find anyone prepared to weld it without risking blowing holes in it. So we've glued and sealed and clamped that, and I've put a good coating of weld or JB weld epoxy around it with the plastic tube over the top, and that seems to be sealing, holding it. It's not over pressurizing. It has got the breather. The breather, if it does build up pressure, can blow anything out there. So yeah, she's running really well. So I'll just give it a few more minutes, maybe another 15, and then we'll fire it up again. But yeah, really impressed. It's going really well. So just for the sake of making things interesting, I'm going to drag this out and have a little go at it too. So Big Chief's here, got the trailer behind it with the Scammell pump on it. You might have seen the Scammell pump a couple of times, I can't remember if I mentioned much about it in the video. but it's a 1940s, late 1940s, 46 I think, pump. It's under that brown cover there, so I'm going to hook the trailer on. I've got a drum around the back there since I've got the hose down here. I'm going to fill the drum up with water. Now this pump has got suction with it, so I can draft from it. So I'm going to try sucking some water out of that drum through that Scammell pump, and then relay pump to the Climax pump, and just see what happens. Try and get both of them running together. I haven't had the Scammell pump out and running for a while. I think the fuel tank's dry and I haven't got much fuel left in my container in the cupboard there, so yeah, let's just bring it out and have a little look at it anyways, make this video a little bit interesting, add some more to it, because the Climax went so well. May as well do something a bit more interesting. Okay, so here's the theory on what we've got set up. So I've just got that garden hose running down. So at the moment just filling up this drum of water here. Got the suction hose for the Scammell pump running in here, delivery out, doing a great big loop up around the lawn, up there, down by the car, back and into the inlet. So this hasn't been used or tested before, so just going to see how that goes, see if it leaks once it primes up. Hopefully I can get this pump running. I've just put the very last of the gas in it that I had. Got a jiggle that's like almost like a jiggle siphon. There's a flapper valve in the bottom of the strainer down there, so I jiggle this up and down to prime the pump, get water up into it, because I don't want to run this one dry either. And I'll go and change my boots, put on some decent boots, because this is a kickstart pump. Kickstarts here, magneto, that's the run position is up. So yeah, we'll just go and change my boots and see if I can't get this one going. That barrel's just about full. Unfortunately I'm not going to be able to reset because I haven't got another delivery hose to bring that hose back into here. If I did, this will be the way that it will hopefully set up for displays if I take both of them together to farming like Grandad. I don't know if you noticed the pumps changed positions on the trailer. It was mounted straight across this way with the outlets coming straight out over the tail. Now I've got it sideways. Reason for that is that this space right here across the back of the trailer is the perfect size for the Climax pump, and I've left space around the outside of the toolbox so that the frame that the pump sits on can go upside down or whatever over the toolbox and around it, so that I can take the whole thing together on one trailer to get it to anywhere I want to go. So yeah, if you're interested in this Scammell pump, there's the plate about it. I don't know how well we focus on there, but Scammell lorries, Watford. Yeah, this was in the New Zealand Fire Service. We think these were manufactured, like I say, the late 40s, mid 40s to late 40s, World War II sort of era. And this was rescued from the scrap heap. It was destined for the scrap heap, I should say. So someone had a go at getting this together and getting it running, but they couldn't get spark out of it. Luckily, Uncle Clive came to the rescue again. Uncle Clive and Leslie, they had a couple of these pumps over in Gisborne, so they had a magneto that worked. So we swapped out the magnetos, got a sparking one on this, and then when we did get it to spark, we had all sorts of flames backwards and forwards out the carburetor and out the exhaust. And then we found a bag tied onto one of the handles, and what we found in the bag was the valve springs. So someone had this apart, figured out they couldn't get it to spark, put it back together, and didn't put the valve springs in. So yeah, so she was stripped down, put the valve springs back in it, and under, see the valve chest under there with the Scammell running across it. So I've still got to play around with the governor spring. The governor spring's quite loose and it won't pull itself back up until I get a bit more tension on there. I made a homemade adjuster down there with a bolt, but I've still got to shorten that spring or get a firmer spring. But yeah, let's go and turn that tap off because the barrel's pretty much full now, and we'll have a go at starting things up. Okay, so we've got a drum full of water here. Now the Climax pump's been sitting, cooling down. This is dead cold, hasn't been started. Time check now from what we had before, so it's actually been getting closer to an hour now that I've let that cool down for, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when I crank the handle and how well that sparks up. So yeah, I'll chuck it on the tripod and I'll start kicking at this thing, and you'll probably hear me cursing and swearing because it won't want to start, but who knows, we'll give it a shot and see what happens. Alrighty, so after a small amount of messing around and quick trip to the gas station to get a bit more fuel, bit of playing, found out that when I took the float chamber apart here, the fuel wasn't actually coming through, so I thought it was because the fuel was low, or not enough to push, but yeah, no, I took the whole fuel line off, nothing was coming out at all, so it must have been blocked up somewhere up in the tap. So we've blown back through that, got fuel coming through now, got it primed up, tickler's working, still haven't kicked it over. Time now is, where are we, 12:14, so we're an hour and a half I guess after when I shut the Climax down, and it's completely cold. I can touch the exhaust manifold behind me now. So yeah, I'll give this thing a kick over. Oh shit, see the fuel pouring out of there? That means that float's stuck, so I better fix that, Alright, here we go again. So fuel's back on. I've just adjusted that float down in there. I know there's a little fuel leak over on the tap side. I keep that wrapped up with a rag, but yeah, let's give it a kick over and see if she starts up this time, Probably flooded now. Heaps of fuel gone through that carb, so we'll just have to clear that out. We'll give it a couple of minutes for me to get my breath back and to see if some of that fuel evaporates. I just got a feeling it's flooded. Might just pull the plug, have a quick look at the plug as well. But it did spark and fly there for a second, so spark's not a problem. And I'll just check that float as well, make sure there's still fuel coming through to it. Alright, so finally I've got the problem solved. Mucking around with the fuel, blowing everything out, blowing out the lines, blowing out the carb. I did just kick it and it fired again. Needed to tickle it to fill the chamber right up to get fuel through to the carb. Now there's a little bit leaking under here, but that's right, once it runs we'll just start using that. So we'll just chuck this little air cleaner filter back on. Open position is down, choke is that way, so that's open. She's all ready to go, we'll fire it up. On, fuel's still on. Latch the throttle down to an idle. So as you can see with that governor, there's a problem, and I've got to got to fix that to get it to run. But it's pumped the water through to this pump. Just have a little play and see what I can figure out in a minute. So there we go. Yeah, the barrels got down to where I was drafting a little bit of air. But yeah, principle worked. This will be good. All I need is another short hose now from here back to the barrel, or even two short hoses. I can set it all up, make it look really good. Plumbing like granddad type thing. I mean, in the real world you'd have this running the other way around. You'd use the big pump obviously to feed the smaller pump, but this is just the only suction I've got at the moment. So yeah, no, it worked good. Just yeah, proof of concept I suppose. So no, I'm really happy with today's efforts, and a little bit more mucking around with the Scammell pump. I wasn't even intending to get it out today, but you know, there you go. There's a little look at that and a little video of that thing running. Yeah, I had to use a pair of vice grips just to clip onto. It's got a lock down in here, so for starting you push the throttle to idle and that locks it in an idle position. A little handle there, so I just had to put the vice grips in on top. You can see in there, just on top of there, just to clip that and hold it. Otherwise the spring would release under vibration and it tries to send itself to full throttle. Since I haven't got the governor spring sorted just yet, it's doing its own thing. So yeah, all those fuel leaks and what have you, not so good for the paintwork. Paint's all bubbled and gone to custard, but never mind, we can sort that out another day. At least they run, at least they work, that's the main thing. Yeah, so thanks heaps for watching. Subscribe, like, share. Yeah, good to show a bit of interest in these old bits and pieces and things that are going on. So like I say, I just made this little video to fill in some time while I'm waiting for the epoxy enamel paint to dry on some bits for Grandad Mac's implements that I'm working on, so hopefully I'll get that video up soon. But yeah, thanks heaps for watching. See you next time. Love it when a plan comes together. So I sort of add this in right at the end here. We've got everything packed up, like I said at the start. I wanted to get the Climax pump on the back of the trailer there. So got Big Chief at front, tow vehicle, Scammell pump where it was bolted down in its new position. Spare wheel fits in there with the delivery sitting on top of it. The Climax pump on the back. Just enough room to wrap the suction hose for the Scammell down into here, and the stand. So yeah, like I say, I really love it when a plan comes together. This looks awesome. We're just going to put her away in the shed now and get everything covered up. Sort of bonus to this is that now I've got the Scammell pump on here off its stand. It's sort of yeah, doubled me up a little bit and given me a bit more room to get the table and the bench set up, do a bit more work on that stuff for Grandad Mac for the Atom. Alrighty, I know I said goodbye before, but yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.